Hi everyone, I'm Tatenda and I'd like to welcome you to Lesson in 5. We summarize the Sabbath School Lesson into 5 main points, and we try to do that in 5 minutes or less, though I don't always achieve that timeline. Today's lesson is Creation, Genesis as Foundation, part 1. So next week is going to be part 2. You don't want to miss that video, but it's a very fascinating lesson. Genesis has a lot of information when we speak about the rest of the theology of the Bible. In the book of Genesis, we discover the beginnings of humanity, the origins of humanity. It also tells us about the beginning of sin. Genesis lays the foundation for the doctrine of salvation, the Sabbath. Many important truths are laid out in the book of Genesis. So that's what we're going to be looking at this week. In the beginning. Genesis 1 verse 1, that Bible verse that many of us have committed to memory. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, tells us some very important truths. It's simple yet profound, because in this one line is an answer to many of philosophy's major questions about where are we from, where are we headed, why are we here. All these questions are answered in this one phrase. We are a product of God. All that we are is created by God. All that we see has been put in place by God. And Jesus is God's agent in creation. The Bible makes that very clear, that nothing was made without him. And the Bible tells us that creation is the origin of humanity. People came from God and have been put on this planet by that same God. The days of creation. There's debate about whether these are literal days or figurative days. But the author seems to want to make it clear that these are very literal days. First of all, the word that he chooses to use, yom, in Hebrew, is usually used for literal days. So that gives us a good hint that these are literal days. There's also the phrase, there was evening and morning. That again points us to literal days. Why would you put so much emphasis if you're doing something figurative? And another indicator, another thing that points us to literal days is, first of all, when he speaks of the first day, it's 1, an ordinal number. He says 1, then the pattern is followed by 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th. So when he's doing this pattern is actually used to introduce something very literal. So when we look at the creation days, we should think about them as 7 literal days, which is a real amazing feat that God put in place. All that we see, all that we have on this planet in 7 literal days. I am amazed at this God. The Sabbath and creation. The Bible mentions that when God had finished all his work, he rested on the 7th day. He sanctified it and he made it holy. God does 3 things on this day to make this day different from any other day. As we celebrate the Sabbath, we remember the Creator God. God and man on this day celebrate the good work that God has done. No other day like it. No other day is so special or meaningful to me. Creation and marriage. Marriage is a very sacred institution. This institution began right at creation when God creates the first man, Adam. He also gives him the first woman, Eve. And Adam gets poetic when he sees her. He says, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She's going to be called woman because she came out of man. And then the Bible goes on to say, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. Marriage is a very sacred institution that God gave to humanity. And when we look at marriage, it's important for us to also understand that God designed that marriage be between man and woman. Now, when people hear Christians say that, they think, oh, you're just being homophobic. But rather, as God's people, we believe that sexuality is sacred. It's something that God has created us with. Just like our race is sacred, so is sexuality sacred. Something that comes right from the very beginning. And marriage is a beautiful gift that God has given to humanity. Creation, the fall, and the cross. When God is done creating, He gives some instructions to Adam, and He says, don't eat the tree that's in the middle of the garden, because when you eat, you will surely die. And we know how the story goes. Adam eats the fruit, and as a result of Adam's sin, death comes into the world. It's very important for us to be crystal clear that death is not the result of evolution or survival of the fittest or natural selection, but rather death is the result of sin. The wages of sin is death. That's exactly what the Bible teaches, that death comes into the world because sin came into the world. So the solution to death is in the Savior who comes for us all. Our redemption is in Jesus Christ. We're not going to evolve to be any better, but rather we await the coming of Jesus, who is going to transform us in the twinkling of an eye. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson in 5. If you've enjoyed this video, please give the video a thumbs up. Just click the like button. This helps to show YouTube that this is a good video, and it can be spread to other people as well. If you've enjoyed it, also going to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and remember to share the video. Your comments are also very well appreciated, so drop in a comment in the box below. Those comments help to encourage me. They also help to make the video a little more popular, so please leave a comment in the box below. Thank you very much. God bless you. See you next week.